And the buck stops here as it does every night. This is our special edition of the buck stops here, coming to you live from Lucknow. Lucknow that was once the city of Atal Bihari Vajpayee. Lucknow that is now the bastion of Mayawati. Lucknow, the city that many say the road to New Delhi has to pass through. We're of course at this stunning Imam Bara near Hazratganj in the heart of Lucknow. And this is Battleground Uttar Pradesh. I've of course got a very special panel with me on location. We'll be debating later in the program what's come to be known as the Muslim vote. But let's get started right away with the headlines.
150 well-armed, highly trained terrorists have crossed into Jammu and Kashmir, all set to strike, an NDTV exclusive. Tens of thousands of Tamil civilians are caught in the crossfire in Sri Lanka. Karunanidhi demands an Indian ultimatum for a ceasefire. ICICI Bank is the first to lower home loan rates for existing customers by 0.5% after RBI rate reduction. Lalu backtracks on Manmohan Singh as Prime Minister. The Congress says he'll find it tough to find a place in the next government. The new Chief Election Commissioner is a Congress agent, Mayawati says. Naveen Chawla hits back.
The UP Chief Minister came herself on a Sunday, spent an hour and congratulated the Election Commission on a free, fair and transparent election.
While Priyanka Gandhi consistently says she won't join politics, her husband Robert Vadra has a different take.
उनको आना चाहिए बिल्कुल, पर उनकी वो करे.
Alright, let's take a look now at all the different voices from across the country who will be joining us across the next 60 minutes. First, on our discussion on the Muslim vote.
In our special focus tonight, as every political party tries to court the Muslim vote, we debate, do Muslims vote on religious lines? Is the Muslim vote a myth? Joining us, senior journalist Sharad Pradhan, live from Lucknow. Zafar Jalani of the All India Muslim Personal Board, also live from Lucknow. Renowned filmmaker and former Samajwadi Party candidate from Lucknow who contested against Atal Bihari Vajpayee, Muzaffar Ali joins us live from New Delhi. Abhishek Manu Singhvi, Congress spokesperson and Rajya Sabha MP, also live from New Delhi. Prakash Javadekar, Rajya Sabha MP and BJP spokesperson, live from New Delhi. And Professor of Political Science at Brown University, Rhode Island, Ashutosh Varshney, is also joining us from New Delhi.
And also from Uttar Pradesh, later in the program, we'll be moving up north to Jammu and Kashmir, where there's very serious reports of infiltration along the scales of Kargil.
Our other big focus tonight, in election season, as 150 terrorists sneak into Gurez in Kashmir, we ask, is there another Kargil in the making? On the program, Farooq Abdullah, former Chief Minister Jammu and Kashmir, live from Srinagar. Former Chief of the Research and Analysis Wing, A.S. Dullat, joins us live from New Delhi. Also on the program, Lieutenant General V.G. Patankar, former GOC 15.
Alright, so as always, we've got a power-packed program, but let's get started with where we are. What used to be known as the Hindi heartland, where many an election, many a national government actually takes shape, either before or after the elections. Now, the big focus on the program tonight is the Muslim vote. Is there such a thing? That's what we'll be debating. But first, Shikha Trivedi explores the phenomenon of how many different Muslim parties, small and big, have sprung up in this election.
Rosa Hospital in Badhalganj, as crowded as the political landscape in eastern UP, with half a dozen new parties being floated by local Muslim leaders and clerics.
The success of BSP by getting organized the Dalits, the Muslims have also started thinking on those lines.
UP's Muslims feel betrayed by Mulayam's alliance with Kalyan Singh and are suspicious of Mayawati's past tie-ups with the BJP, but are hesitant to support these outfits.
एक जमहूरी मुल्क में एक अलग मुहाज बना के मुसलमान कामयाब नहीं हो सकता। नेशनल पार्टीज से समझौता करके साथ में चलना पड़ेगा।
A party of their choosing.
With the decline in the political fortunes of the BJP here, the Muslims feel less threatened by the bogey of Hindutva raised by other parties to capture their votes.
For the first time since the demolition of the Babri Masjid, the community can put its own interests first, not theirs. Shikha Trivedi for NDTV.
All right, so the big question, of course, is that when we talk about the Muslim vote, and we'll explore whether it's a myth or a reality, is there even such a thing? Where does it reconcile with the larger notion of secularism? Let me start with Zafar Gilani. Is there such a thing? ऐसी चीज होती है मुसलमान का वोट?
See, any constituency of a particular kind of persons is called a constituency of such and such religious community or caste or such group.
Yeah.
Similarly, you can say Muslims also are treated as a constituency.
Yeah.
Why? Because they are in minority, and in all countries of the world, minorities have a special feeling for their own protection, for the protection of their identity.
So you think there's nothing wrong or anti-secular in voting with your Muslim identity in context?
Of course, because the constitution recognizes that there are minorities. It is our constitutional mandate which has been recognized by the Constituent Assembly that
Okay.
there are minorities. So the concept of minority is well enshrined in our constitution.
Okay, let me get Virendra Bhatia in now. Virendra Bhatia, the Samajwadi Party once positioned itself as the wanting to be the first choice of Muslim voters in Uttar Pradesh. Now you've gone and aligned with the man widely held responsible for the demolition of the Babri Masjid, yet you still position yourselves as the messiah of the Muslim voter. How do you reconcile this?
Barkha ji, I think that you always try to alienate the Muslims from the other community.
I try to alienate.
Yes, of course, it is.
I thought it was all of you who did that, but
it is the
anyway.
media bogey only.
Okay.
There is nothing. I have toured to at least 20 states.
Yeah.
There is no effect of that factor. Muslims are Indian, part of the India.
Okay.
They are also Indians. Their priority is food. Their priority is education. Their priority is medical aid.
Yeah.
Their priority is the road. They want that the UP state and the country must develop. They are looking forward the development of the country. They don't vote on these lines. Whether what will happen after the alliance with the Kalyan
Very
Singh.
interesting. Completely different views between the two men expressed here.
And apart from that, they also remember, Muslims also remember that it was the Mulayam Singh who was the protector in the 1990 who sacrificed his chief ministership.
Okay, so Muslims remember that, but they don't remember who demolished the Babri Masjid.
That now,
उस समय they care about Bilki Sadak
one
Pani.
minute.
Huh.
Now the Kalyan Singh has come to demolish the BJP stack.
Okay.
Not he has followed the path of the Mulayam Singh, not the Mulayam Singh. has gone
Okay.
to the
Before I go
Kalyan.
to our guest in Delhi, Sharad, very different views here. One saying nothing wrong, it is a minority. The other saying, Muslims are like everybody else. They care about Bilki Sadak Pani. So why does the media create a bogey of Kalyan Singh?
Well, I feel what Mr. Zafar Gilani said is harsh reality, and what Mr. Bhatia is saying is sheer politics.
You agree with Zafar Gilani?
I agree with him, because just as when you have candidates being selection of candidates is done on the basis of caste and creed and religion,
Yeah.
the voting is done on those lines, then how is it wrong to have and it is a reality that there is a Muslim vote. If there is a Banya vote, a Thakur vote, a Brahmin vote, then why not a Muslim vote?
Okay, interesting thought. Let me put that first to Abhishek Singhvi. Abhishek Singhvi, the BJP accuses the Congress of playing minority politics. The Congress breaks into a hive every time the BJP mentions Hindutva. But when there is talk of the Muslim vote, the Congress turns around and says, why not? Do you not see a contradiction here, Abhishek Singhvi?
There is no contradiction, Barkha, because these definitions have to be appreciated. The Congress has a 150-year-old consistency we believe that you cannot talk of extreme positions on any religion. Hindutva, if you mean Hindu religion, there is no problem. But if it means the radical brand, for example, just take one example, the BJP's oft-repeated stand that all Muslims in this country are really Hindus, and they have to have some unknown, self-serving, selective definition of cultural nationalism. Now that's objectionable. But equally, we also see minorities, and I wouldn't call Muslims, I'd say minorities, as pockets of underdevelopment. We ultimately look at them in economic terms, in lower education, in lower health, in ghettoization, and the Sachar report is only a statistical itemization of a feeling which we've had for a long time. Now that is why you do have a kind of a special focus in some programs. But we don't believe in any manner in trying to play religion card by the sense of religion itself. The fact of the matter is, you see in UP, the most backward section of society are many of these minority pockets. And to the extent we can do something for it, we try to do it. Not at the cost of Hindus, certainly.
Let me get Prakash. All right. Let me get Prakash Javadekar in. Prakash Javadekar, respond to that the BJP wants all Muslims and minorities in India to accept a larger cultural nationalism that is essentially defined by the majority. That's what Hindutva is, and therefore it is essentially okay to talk about minority identities, but not okay to actually thrust a majority cultural nationalism onto everybody.
I really fail to understand whether the Supreme Court is also communal in Congress parlance, because Supreme Court has defined Hindutva as the way of life of this country. So where is the question of religion arising out of it? It's a national concept. We believe in one country, one people, one soil concept. And if that is the yardstick, then all 115 crore people are to be looked as one, and we ensure that every section of society develops. That is the nationalist thinking. That is what BJP stands for. And now let me tell you again that this is really funny in Indian politics, that you talk of caste, you are secular. You talk of religion, you talk of Muslim vote, you talk of vote bank, you justify everything, still you are secular. I think these secularism sermons are issued by Congress and so-called pseudo-secular parties at their whims, and they think that they are Shankaracharyas or Muftis to issue the fatwas in this regard. But we don't agree to this concept. We look to the whole nation as one.
I'm going to ask you later why you'll take. I'm going to ask you later why you'll take Baba Ramdev's endorsement on an issue, but not a Maulvi's on a different issue. I want to first now go to Professor Ashutosh Varshney, one of the best regarded political scientists in this region. Ashutosh, what do the statistics show? Because politicians will debate till the cows come home, but is this construct of the Muslim vote just one big myth when you actually look at the numbers?
The numbers, Barkha, are quite clear. If you look at the 2007 UP Assembly elections, I think we should look at it more carefully than 2004 parliamentary elections. Roughly half of UP's Muslims voted for Samajwadi Party, close to 20% for Bahujan Samaj Party, roughly 15% for Congress Party, and then the remaining for smaller parties in different parts of the state. But basically you can say that the Muslim vote was split over SP, BSP and Congress, with SP getting half of all, roughly half of all Muslim vote. So it's not the case that Muslims vote as a monolithic entity. Their votes are also split.
Very, very interesting and neutral statistics there. Muzaffar Ali makes sense of those numbers, that there is no monolithic vote, but other than the BJP, Muslims seem to vote for all other political formations.
Hello? Hello?
Yes, Muzaffar Ali, if you can hear me, I just wanted to ask you how you make sense of this paradoxical debate.
I think the picture has changed radically, and I don't think Mulayam Singh
holds that much sway on the Muslim votes anymore, because of his alliance with Kalyan Singh. In fact, I had joined Mulayam Singh when the Babri Masjid broke, and I was totally an apolitical person. And in the last 5 years, I have again become apolitical. So I feel that the Muslims are not going to go with Mulayam Singh the way he thinks they will go. And there will be a certain amount of Muslims going to the BSP because of the kind of people they put up, wherever they put up Muslim candidates, I think the Muslims may go to them. And the other thing, I think the Muslims are realizing that in the larger interest of the country, in the larger interest of internal security and other communalism, the threat of communalism within the country, I think they will gravitate towards the Congress. So I think Congress may have a good chance of getting the Muslim votes this time, a better proportion.
All right, very interesting. Okay, Muzaffar. Virendra Bhatia, is the SP deluding itself? You're going to get a big chunk of the OBC vote perhaps with Kalyan Singh on your side, but do you really believe that the Babri Masjid demolition has ceased to be an identity polarization point for not just UP but India's Muslims?
I can say this time, according to the analysis, last time 50% Muslim voted for us, 25% voted for Baspa. This time our Muslim vote share will increase because they have come to know that Baspa has doing nothing for the Muslims. They have been being treated as a second-rate citizen. No employment for Muslim, no schemes for the development of the Muslims.
You're not answering the larger ideological question. No contradiction in signing up with the man accused of bringing down the Babri Masjid.
But they know it, that the main enemy, who is the main enemy? Main enemy is BJP. And anybody who wants to defeat the BJP will be their choice. They know that the Mulayam Singh is the only person who is the protector of the interest of the Muslim community.
But okay.
The minority community. I can say one thing. BSP has aligned with the BJP 3 times. Mayawati has campaigned for the Narendra Modi, who was much more dangerous than Kalyan Singh.
Okay, that's a good point, but we're not having a Mayawati versus Mulayam debate here. Zafar Gilani, let me ask you the opposite question. Why is it that Muslims tend, want to identify themselves as a ghettoized community? For example, we barely see the BJP talk about Ram Mandir anymore. It's there in their manifesto, but they barely talk about it. Similarly, is it time for UP and India's Muslims to move beyond the Babri Masjid?
No, we are not talking Babri Masjid. You can't give
It's not an electoral issue anymore.
It is not an issue.
So why is Kalyan Singh an electoral issue?
We have never made Babri Masjid an electoral issue.
So why is Kalyan Singh an electoral issue?
Kalyan Singh is not an electoral issue. Question was, if you are with a person who is hated by us, then naturally it will have some reflection.
But I find the phrase you've used very interesting, Sharad.
Yeah.
Hated by us. Kaun hai ye us?
Us as Muslims, that's what he's meaning.
But can one person speak
only Jalan, Mr. Jalan.
for all Muslims?
I think he's expressing the larger view of the Muslims. That is my experience too. Muslims in general are quite disillusioned with Mulayam Singh, on whom they had tremendous faith, and simply because he aligned with Kalyan Singh. And
so that is still a point that touches the court.
Absolutely, and people fail to understand. I mean, that's the reason why it became visible with the exit of Salim Sherwani, Shafiqur Rahman Barq, 2 important MPs today. I mean, why is Mulayam done it? Even their own partymen cannot understand. I can understand it's Mr. Bhatia's compulsion to follow what the leader says.
Okay, we'll let Mr. Bhatia respond to that later. Let me take it back to the politicians and to Ashutosh Varshney then. Abhishek Singhvi, the Congress stands accused of a double standard. And the double standard is this, that you have no hesitation talking about, let's say, the disgruntlement within Muslim communities about Kalyan Singh, and at the same breath thinking that fits in within the framework of secularism. Shouldn't true secularism mean that we don't talk about religion-based identity politics at all? Abhishek Singhvi.
No, that's not the definition of secularism which we have adopted. This is a very important and interesting facet, and we don't have time to discuss it. Let me tell you very briefly. The Indian secular ethos, as stated in our constitution, is really to have an inclusive approach to all religions. not to have an antiseptic separation of state from religion or religion from state, as you have, for example, in the American definition, but here to have an inclusive approach altogether. Now, when you're trying to take all together, really the crux of the matter is India is such a diverse spot, the most diverse spot on earth. Unless you let go, you cannot govern this country. The more you pull it together, the less easily you can govern it. And that is the ethos, which is the one of inclusive governance. Now, inclusive governance means that we cannot possibly accept this one country, one people concept when it comes to mean. Of course, we are one country, we are one citizen. But when it means imposing the cultural ethos, the heritage, the thinking, the dress, the religion, the rituals, that's the real meaning of BJP's cultural nationalism. Whenever we talk of this issue, they quote the Supreme Court judgment. Please pick up the judgment. Does the Supreme Court judgment ever say anywhere that you will go around doing Rath Yatras and speech like Varun did? The true element of at the back of the BJP's philosophy are the words of Varun Gandhi. That's the real ethos. And that's what this country has to worry about. Not normal propagation of healthy, religious, inclusive activity.
Let me take that to Prakash Javadekar. I believe Ashutosh Vashti has something to say. Prakash Javadekar, a quick response from you first. Why do you persist with things like Article 370 being abrogated, Uniform Civil Code? I mean, do you not look around at what Abhishek Singhvi calls the great diversity of this country?
Whose agenda is this cow protection, 370 and Common Civil Code? It is not invented by BJP. It is there in the constitutional. This is not communal agenda, this is constitutional agenda. See, Baba Saheb Ambedkar, Pandit Nehru and everybody who signed the constitution has all these three things. Is it BJP agenda? Is it communal agenda? This is constitutional agenda. Congress and other people are for vote bank considerations, are opposing the constitutional agenda. That is our position.
That's a good point. These were directive principles in the constitution. Ashutosh, you were wanting to make a point. Go ahead.
Yes. First of all, on the question of how secularism is defined in India, it's very clear that it's not defined as anti-religious politics or a-religious politics. Secularism has always been defined in India as equidistant politics. It is inclusive of religion, it's not anti or a-religious. But secondly, as we think about UP, another piece of statistic which is very revealing, in 2007, Samajwadi Party got 25% of all of UP's vote, 25.4%. Yadavas and Muslims constituted 80% of all SP vote. If Muslims do leave Samajwadi Party, which seems quite likely from field reports, then they will deal a crippling blow to Samajwadi Party in the coming elections. Muslims are roughly 40% of all of Samajwadi Party vote were in 2007. So if they leave, it will be a very damaging blow to Samajwadi Party.
That's a very interesting statistic. Ashutosh, one more quick comment from you. Where do you see Mayawati's attempt to try and bring a very interesting sort of mix of social engineering? Began with the Dalits, then included the Brahmins, now reaching out to the Muslims as well.
Well, I think it's, as Muzaffar put it rightly, historically it's been true that minorities in general, but let's Muslims in India, have tended to vote first of all for a winning Muslim candidate. So even in Hyderabad, let's say, MIM has always won, even though MIM gets only 1 or 2 seats in Lok Sabha. So the first strategy is always to pick a winning Muslim candidate regardless of which party that candidate comes from. The second in UP of late has been, for the last several years, has been Samajwadi Party. So now the question is whether after leaving Samajwadi Party, a lot of Muslims will go towards BSP or towards Congress Party. I don't think that is a settled question yet. I think it's an open question. I don't think the BSP can assume that all Muslims who are leaving SP will go towards BSP, nor can Congress assume that they're all coming towards the Congress Party. Though I think it is pretty clear that if they leave SP, both BSP and Congress Party will benefit quite substantially. though it's not clear they'll go to only one party. They'll both benefit quite substantially.
Muzaffar Ali, a quick last word from you. Do you believe in what Ashutosh is essentially, without using the phrase, calling the tactical voting by Muslims, and it varies from constituency to constituency?
I think there will be tactical voting in some cases, but on the whole, there'll be a big drift away from the Samajwadi Party. There's no doubt about it. Samajwadi Party is going to lose the Muslim vote in a very, very big way, and part of it will go to wherever there's a strong Muslim candidate put up by PSP, and otherwise I think the Congress could well get the benefit of the Muslim votes in UP at this point.
All right, let me just get quick last words from our guests on location. Virendra Bhatia, it seems from our expert opinion that your Muslim vote is in trouble in UP. Is that your feeling on the ground?
What Mr. Ashutosh has told, if there is still a question mark,
yes,
I can say that Muslims will vote this time more in number than the last time. Last time they voted for BSP, they are disillusioned, and as far as Muzaffar Ali says, he has left the Samajwadi Party for last 10 years. When he contested from Lakhimpur from the other party, he lost his security even. So that he does not represent the Muslims. I know. I have been touring the state. I know the Muslims are with the Samajwadi Party because they know that the Mulayam Singh is the only person who can't.
Okay. I think Muzaffar was trying to say something, but we're totally out of time. Do you think it's dangerous? I take Ashutosh Varshney and Abhishek Singhvi's point that, you know, our secularism not antiseptic. But do you think it's dangerous that today in 2009 we still talk again and again in Muslims voting tactically?
You see, why don't you feel that Muslims are also part of this country?
Of course
Muslims
I feel that.
If that is so, then the Muslims want their protection, then they want everything which Mr. Bhatia said. Development is never opposed by Muslims.
Yes.
But in addition to that, they want their identity to be protected. So for that, if they fight and they want a special privilege, for that they have supported Mulayam Singh. Even today they don't hate Mulayam Singh. It is not that Mulayam Singh is being hated.
It's the Kalyan Singh factor.
Yes,
okay, last word to you, totally out of time. Will we ever move beyond this sort of arithmetic, or in a sense, as you said earlier, if caste arithmetic is a reality, so is religious arithmetic?
Unfortunately, we are not moving in, because thanks to all, I mean, irrespective of the party, each of the political leaders in this country, everyone, they are, as I said earlier, when the selection of candidate is done on the basis of caste, creed and religion, then how can you rise above this? You go to any place, the first thing they'll tell you, there are so many of this belonging to this caste, so many belonging to that caste, so many belonging to that religion. That is why so and so has been selected.
Well, I guess the tragedy is that nobody looks at the socio-economic indices of how India's minorities live, which should have been the real issue in this election. But for now, Ashutosh Varshney, Prakash Javadekar, Abhishek Singhvi, Muzaffar Ali, and of course the three gentlemen here. Thanks for your time on the Buck Stops here. Now, let's take a look at what all of you are writing in on this issue. What are the best said emails we're getting tonight? Let's bring those up now. Our best said emails are coming from Krishnakant Shukla. Krishnakant Shukla writes saying, I would welcome a Ram Rajya where Muslims get their rights as rights and not as bakshish. Their condition is documented in the Satya report is horrible. And our second email tonight is coming from PG Subramaniam, who says the monopolistic ownership of the Muslim vote bank is not relevant in an increasingly market-driven society. Muslims have begun to realize that the vote bank approach is only meant to misuse them. So two very different views there. Before we slip into a break, now of course as we say every day in this program, during election season, politicians say all sorts of things, but some things tend to sting just a little more. Tonight's bite that hurts comes from, well, we're in Lucknow, so it has to come from Mayawati.
कोई भी दल देश में मेरे चुनाव भ्रमण के दौरान कहीं पर भी मेरी हत्या भी करवा सकते हैं।
मायावती जी बेचारी, मैं समझता हूं कि खुद अपनी हत्या खाद कर रही है चुनाव में उतर के, क्योंकि जो जितना चुनाव में ज्यादा उतरेंगी उतना विश्वास जनता से खत्म हो जाएगा उनके ऊपर। ये अपने आप में हत्या करना ही तो है।
So those are the bite that hurts. On the other side of the break, from UP to Jammu and Kashmir, it's a big leap to make, but there's a very serious story brewing in that part of the country. Reports of a Kargil-like infiltration. We'll debate that on the other side, so don't go anywhere.
We are concerned about infiltration bait.